Hello everybody, welcome back. What you're listening to right now is actual music that was played aboard the Royal Mail steamer Titanic during its first and final cruise. If you're interested in getting a copy of this music, it's pretty easy to get. Here's the CD itself, and it's Titanic music is heard on the fateful voyage. Performed by the White Star Orchestra, which is just a studio band. It has all the selections you get, which it's kind of like the playlist from Titanic, and there's also a very nice booklet inside, which has facts about the Titanic, the band, and so forth. I think it's really fascinating. It also has the lyrics to the songs and some old pictures that relate to it. That picture right there, it's been retouched, interestingly. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's a photo of the Titanic. But as you can see, all four smokestacks have smoke coming out of them. That's incorrect. The fourth smokestack actually was a dummy. It didn't work. It was just placed there to make the Titanic look more impressive. So as you can see, I have a scale representation of the Titanic that's for the video, and behind it is a copy of the New York Tribune from Tuesday, April 16th, 1912, and it reads, "More than 1,500 perish as the great Titanic sinks. Only 675 survivors, mostly women and children, known to be rescued." So now let's talk about a little bit of the mystery of Titanic. There's an overabundance of information on Titanic nowadays, mostly because of the very successful 1997 movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, which depicted a very realistically done dramatization of the sinking of the Titanic. And there's also just been sort of a resurgence in interest, and sort of almost a romantic interest in Titanic. So but there are some legitimately strange things that need to be talked about. I'll tell you what, before I get into the mystery, I just want to show you a few more things that you can get. First of all, here's a nice set of DVDs. It's a 5 DVD set. You can pick them up at Ross or TJ Maxx or online for next to nothing. But I urge you to do it if you're interested, because these DVDs contain actual interviews with Titanic survivors and lots and lots and lots of expert research and documentation and art and artifact discussion about Titanic that just seems to be kind of lost in the shuffle. So if you can get this very, very affordable set, I urge you to do it. Here's also a copy of Ghosts of the Abyss. This is the James Cameron picture book, as he actually went to visit the wreckage of the Titanic in the Atlantic Ocean. So it's another interesting book if you want to see some really great pictures. It's pretty easy to find. Now, okay. These are little fake boarding passes that I picked up when Mary and I saw the Titanic artifacts of the Titanic exhibit in Atlanta. It was pretty amazing because they had all the artifacts displayed inside sort of a scale representation of the Titanic, and we actually got to see the ship's bell and some of the controls and actual clothing and personal effects of the people aboard the ship. There was even a perfume sales lady's sample set, which still had perfume inside of it, inside the little bottles. There was bottles of champagne, papers, top hats, shoes, and lots of plates. And actually, when I was there, I picked up a copy of one of the plates that would have been on the Titanic, and I still had the plate hanger on. But yeah, I did pick this up. I thought it was a nice souvenir. And here is a White Star Line third class menu, and I'll just read it off for you. For breakfast, what they ate on April 14th, or what was scheduled to be eaten, was oatmeal porridge and milk, smoked herrings, jacket potatoes, ham and eggs, fresh bread and butter, marmalade, tea, Swedish bread, and coffee. For dinner, rice soup, fresh bread, cabin biscuits, roast beef, brown gravy, sweet corn, boiled potatoes, plum pudding, sweet sauce, fruit, and tea. And cold meat, cheese, pickles, fresh bread and butter, stewed figs and rice, and tea. And supper was gruel, cabin biscuits, and cheese. Any complaint respecting the food supplied, want of attention, or incivility should be at once reported to the purser or chief steward. For purposes of identification, each steward wears a number badge on the arm. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Now, on to the mystery. Okay. In 1898, a book was written, and incidentally, the Titanic sank in 1912. So, in 1898, this was 14 years before the sinking of the Titanic. It was actually before the Titanic was even constructed. The book was called The Wreck of the Titan, and it was written by Morgan Robertson. Now, this book predicted a large passenger liner with very, very similar specifications as Titanic, down to the weight, the number of screws on the end of it, the number of smokestacks, the passenger complement, the heading, the route. I mean, almost detail for detail, just an exact duplicate of the Titanic 14 years before the fact, and it was named the Titan. And on its first voyage, after being declared unsinkable, the Titan actually hits an iceberg that night and sinks with a large loss of life. So, not surprisingly, after the Titanic, this book was rediscovered, and people speculated that Morgan Robertson was a psychic or something. So, it's a very true, this is a true fact, and it's very, very interesting. Now, here is a copy of the book that's very easy to find, copies of the book. This is obviously not first edition, but it's still, I suggest you read it just for the sheer creepiness factor. And there's a picture of Morgan Robertson. Now, this was just one of many books. He was just kind of a pop writer, and this is just one of the many books that that he wrote, and he had no idea that it was going to turn into, you know, this prediction of something that would really happen. However, there is a logical and plausible explanation that has nothing to do with supernatural or anything, and it's that the White Star Line constructed several ships, and they all had very similar names, and all of them ended in IC or TIC, and they had names like Gigantic, Olympic, so forth. And now Titanic was a natural, it was going to be a name, and it was just a matter of time. So picking, if he'd used Titanic, obviously he might have faced some legal trouble from the White Star Line, so he picked Titan, and that actually makes sense. And now, the route from England to New York, I mean, that's a pretty typical route in 1898. And hitting an iceberg, well, if a ship's going to sink in the Atlantic by the Grand Banks, that's a pretty likely way a ship would sink. Now, you could, it's kind of like the Kennedy-Lincoln coincidence. You can find supernatural parallels if you look for them, but at the same time, you can find reasonable and plausible explanations too. However, it is still kind of eerie and kind of weird. So, you know, make your own decision on that one. And now, anyway, eerie, creepy. I do hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll do plenty more. I hope you like my new series of mystery reviews, and just please subscribe, please leave feedback. And I do want to make a disclaimer: the newspaper and the menu are these are not originals. So please, nor is the plate. So I don't want you to think I own any artifacts from Titanic. I do not. Okay, but I hope you did enjoy the review, and I intend to make plenty more. Bye.